Welcome to the Why Not podcast with me, Chrissy Hawkins. In a world where everybody always asks you why, I'm here to ask why not. I'm going to do that by breaking down the mindsets of guests and my own to figure out what makes people say, why not? Hello, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, whenever you are listening to the podcast. Today's podcast is all about our own beliefs and thinking traps and stuff like that. And I think I had a bit of bank holiday brain because felt like I couldn't string a sentence together while I was doing this, which was interesting, considering that, I actually worked most of the bank holiday. I wasn't off and I wasn't drinking, but hopefully it makes sense. Hopefully there is some semblance of sense in it, and I hope you take something from this. So as ever, guys, with my podcast, if you would like to walk and listen or sit back and relax, just enjoy whatever way you want to do it. Well, hello guys, and welcome back to Why Not. So I'm recording this on Tuesday and it goes out on Tuesday, and the reason being is a lot of the time I like to record them on a Monday, but I completely forgot about it until really late last night because the bank holiday really threw me off. And I don't know if that happens to anyone else, like they just get completely thrown for a loop when the bank holidays happen. And I worked the bank holiday, it's not like I was off, but it just routine was different and confused. And I was out for a wander last night at 7 o'clock and I was like, shit, the podcast. So here I am recording now. That is a wonderful story that you probably didn't need to hear. However, I decided to let you know. And today's topic is going to be all about thinking traps and why language is so important in how we talk to ourselves in life and about everything we do, and stories we tell ourselves and how they can become our reality. So that's what I wanted to talk to you about today, because it's something I've been thinking about quite a bit recently. I was listening to a podcast earlier and they were talking all about it as well, and I was like, well, that's a sign for me to do the podcast on this too. So what do I mean by thinking traps and stories we tell ourselves? Okay, on the flip side, I just want to see who here has heard about manefesting. So it's a big thing, it's become very popular. The whole thing is, what you want, you kind of think about it and picture it and all that kind of stuff, and it'll come to you, and that's how you do it. You're manifesting the result you want, and then you get to it, or it comes to you, or it arrives to you. And I'm sure a lot of people think that's a load of bollocks, and to be honest, I kind of in a sense would have thought that myself. But there's a way, kind of in between of it's all well and good thinking about, I'm going to be rich and just hoping that's going to happen, or telling yourself you're going to win the lotto, but if you never put any plans in place towards working towards it, it will never happen. So there's no point saying you're going to tell yourself you're going to win the lotto and not buy a ticket. You need to be in the game to win it. So I think there is a lot to be said for the idea of manifesting, but without any actual action towards the goal, it won't happen. And that's where maybe some people fall down. Some people may think that it is silly, or some people who don't believe in it, or maybe said I tried it and it didn't work, might find issues with it. But for me, I think I'm somewhere in the middle with it, as that yes, it's very possible if you think the right way. But you do have to do some work towards it as well, because it's very, very rare that something just lands in your lap just because you wanted it. You tend to have had to do something to get there. And this works both ways. And this is why I kind of started with manifesting, which is kind of the positive version of it, believing and giving yourself affirmations and saying things over and over to yourself. And again, people might think that affirmations and telling yourself you're great and you can do it is silly. However, at the flip side, they have no problem with doing the opposite, which is beating yourself up and telling you you're not doing good enough and you're you're failing and everything's wrong. So why do you think it's stupid to say something that could help you and believe in yourself, yet think it's perfectly okay to berate yourself and tear yourself down constantly? And I think that's kind of crazy that we do feel this way, and it's like, oh hey, yeah, that's completely the same. Do you know what I mean? If that makes sense. So it is like, basically it's the same principle, but the negative is okay and the positive is silly. And like, the thing about it is, we've all told ourselves stuff that we do start to believe. So how many times you told yourself, oh, I can't do that, oh, I'm too old for that, oh, I'm not strong enough, or oh, I'm not brave enough. And at the end of the day, if you tell yourself these stories and then you do nothing about it, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. So yeah, like, it's all well and good to say, I can't lose weight, if you're trying to lose that, if that's your goal. But if you're not doing anything about it, you're definitely not going to lose it. So of course you can't, if you're not doing anything to work towards it, if it is a goal of yours that you have. And likewise, if you tell yourself, I can't do that, I'm too old, like, you're going to not do it. Like, you don't do it, then you're like, right, grand, story fulfilled, I told you I couldn't do it, I'm too old, I can't lift that weight, I'm too small. Again, you're going to tell yourself that story and you're going to believe it. So by doing so, as I said, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. So do you not notice this when you're doing things like, how many times has there been something that you've been like, oh no, I'd never be able to do that, and then you tried it and actually you weren't as bad, or you were actually able to do it, maybe not to the extent you wanted, but turns out you could actually do it. So now you are like hopefully changing your belief. We need to, like, beliefs, as a podcast I was listening earlier said, like, beliefs are dangerous. If it's a belief, you're not going to question it. So unless you start questioning these beliefs, nothing's going to change, and you're going to continue to prove yourself right. And the thing is, we've all been there. Like, I have different things that I believe, say, in respect to nutrition and exercise, as I was growing up and as I was a trainer. And some of these included that, to lose weight, you had to cut carbs, you had to eat as little calories as possible, was one. Another thing was that have you ever heard of that story where people say, like, oh, if you're not eating enough, your body goes into starvation mode and holds on to fat, so you end up actually getting bigger rather than losing weight? I believed that for a while, and they were all wrong. And I'm pretty happy, like, I'm okay to admit that. And beliefs change. I learned more, I got more educated, I realised that was completely incorrect and scientifically didn't make sense. So because of that, I now can go on and say, okay, no, I was wrong about that, and I will change how I believe things are now. I'm okay with questioning that. And you find, like, it happens in the fitness industry, it happens in all loads of different industries, that people get really tied and really attached to their beliefs, and they won't discuss it, they will just argue it. And say, for instance, with the whole COVID thing, you can see that's a really, really, like, good not talk about, say, fitness, is a good example. People believe one thing, people believe the other. Neither are having open discussions as to why they believe this. They're just yelling their opinions at each other until hopefully the other one changes their mind, which doesn't really, really work. And some of the opinions we get from different things aren't necessarily always scientifically backed. And science is great, but also science can also be a little bit black and white, in the sense of the human condition isn't taken into it. So yes, fair enough, here is a study I can show you as to why this will go this way, but we're not thinking about human behavior and how it works in that sense. So I hope that made sense. It makes sense in my head, but it's very hard to sometimes like help change beliefs. You can come at someone and say, look, here is this. Like, you will find, to be honest, you will find a study on most different things that will tell you the answer you want. Okay, so you have to be ready be aware of your own biases in this case. So like, if for instance, if you want a study to show that keto is better for fat loss, you will find a study that says keto is better for fat loss. If you want a study that's going to say it's not, you'll find that study. There's lots of other different studies. The thing is, we have to look at like our own bias. Are you finding that to confirm it, or would you read the study that confirms the opposite in order to broaden your opinions? And this is where it gets really important, like, because if you're just looking for the evidence that supports your theory, you're not open to other ideas. And this comes down, as I said, with mindset as well. Like, if you're looking for that reason to say, oh, I can never lose weight, you will find it and you will have confirmed your ideas. Instead, you will not try the other options because they may challenge the belief you have that you cannot lose weight. And it's very, very important as well. Like, if you're looking for stuff to confirm, you look for stuff to challenge it. And bias is a really, really dangerous thing, because we have a habit of going around and telling people whatever worked for us, it should work for them. And it may not, first off, work for everybody, which is fine. And with other people, they may not enjoy it, they may not like it. And look, there's a lot of us, we do, as I said, we come from a place of we're trying to help. If they have an issue that you're similar issue to, your first thought is like, oh, this happened to me, this is probably what it is. You feel like that should be right, and maybe that's not what's helping them, and it's not going to help them for you telling them your opinion and how you did it. So remember, if you are talking to people who are, say, struggling with a similar issue, and you've had a reason or a thing that has changed, maybe ask them questions as to why they feel that way and why they want to do it and what way they can go, as opposed to just getting the first bit of information and assuming this is what I want, this is what you're getting, this is what you need. That was a little kind of side tangent there. But when it comes coming back to the belief thing as well, like, look at yourself. As I said, I have the examples there of me, different things I believed that I thought was I thought was right, and I've learned over the years, though that's wrong. I still have certain beliefs and certain things that I probably should question a little bit more, which I will. But if you are really, really tied to an opinion on something, or as I said, it's a belief, maybe look at yourself and go, what have I changed my opinion on before? Like, what is out there that I thought I believed, or I did believe, and now I'm like, actually, no, that wasn't right. And admitting you're wrong is okay. We don't have to stay tied to something just to save face. Like, the ego is a great thing for doing that. I didn't believe this before. I didn't believe before that meditation was a good idea. I actually find it beneficial now. I didn't believe that, I'm a very go-go person. I didn't believe that, like, trying to slow down and rest was good. I prefer it now because you can pour from an empty cup. These little things like that, like, it could be anything. Like, I believe that I couldn't run for long periods of time. I ran 16k once. Like, that's pretty long. Look at all these things and now tie it back to what you think yourself that you cannot do. What do you believe you cannot do? Can that be changed? Is there any evidence to support that you may be able to do it? Like, have you done something before that maybe it was a short-term thing, but to prove that you can actually do this? And I think it's really important that we are constantly doing this in order to grow as a human over time. And it's, as I said, it's not always about fat loss. It's not about gaining muscle. It's about always having an open mind towards things. Like, this could be about you getting a new job. This could be like, oh, I'm too old to change a career. You're never too old to change a career. The only person stopping you change a career is you. You thinking, I'm too old to go back to college. No, plenty of people go back to college now. It'll do, like, it does the world of good. Like, if you're broadening your horizons and your scope of knowledge, why wouldn't you do it? Things like that. And another one along these lines, to be fair as well, like, there's nothing wrong with changing your opinion on something. Like, it's okay, as I said, it's okay to admit you're wrong, and you don't, like, there is nothing wrong with that. Like, you didn't have the same information when you formed that opinion. Now you've different information and your opinions change. I feel like some people feel like they have to stay tied to this one opinion the whole time, like, to save face. You don't want to look like an idiot who was wrong at the start. And then by doing that, you kind of latch on to something that you know is wrong, and you stay with it. So instead of, like, holding on to dear life for something that you have an inkling isn't right, maybe just come out in a minute. Sorry, I was wrong with that. I don't believe that anymore. This doesn't even have to be a public thing. This could be to family or, friends, or if you change an opinion on something, you just change an opinion. Like, it's normal. Don't worry about that. I've given you several examples there where I've done that, and I'm happy to admit now I was wrong. And another thing that I think is really important is we don't be afraid to question everything. Okay? So, like, if X influencer says this or whatever, you could question it. Same thing. They don't have to just be like influencers with followers. This could be like medical professionals. This can be nutritionists, PTs, any of them. Don't be afraid to question them. Just ask them why. Like, a good nutritionist, PT, whatever, like, person will be able to explain to you what the reasoning is, and even give you the devil's advocate side. If they can't do that, be worried. Like, they should be able to explain why they're telling you what to do something. And I'm not saying that I'm not trying to, like, drag down, like, PTs, nutritionists, or, like, medical professionals, but some of them don't have all the information, or they're acting from a place of bias, like we were talking, like I was mentioning there, like they're putting their own bias onto it. It works for them, it should work for everyone. It doesn't work for everyone a lot of the time. Don't be afraid to ask them the question as to why they think that way and why it's not a different way. And they, if they get defensive and aren't able to tell you, or just say, like, this is the way it is, and can't give you counter arguments, maybe that's a bit of a red flag. Again, up to you to make that decision. I just think it's very, very important we do this, because, like, no one is able to, no one is free of biases. No one is, exempt from making mistakes, or it's impossible for them to make a mistake. Everybody makes mistakes at some point, and everyone has their own biases. And if you don't think you've got biases, you're lying to yourself. You do. Just remember that. There's nothing wrong with it. We all have it. They come from different places. Like, we could have a bias towards something because something we grew up with our parents. It could be something we learned in school. It could be something we learned in college. There are so many different things that we've learned over the years that can create and form our own biases. It could be something that we read and decided ourselves. So don't be afraid, as I said, to question them, but don't think that you're above it. No one is above having them. We all have them, and it all, like, in different areas of life. It's not necessarily when it comes to your, like, opinions on anything. Like, you could have biases from anything, like from the way you make your bed to the way someone washes dishes, like everything like that. There is all a bias towards it. Like, have you ever corrected someone and said they've done it the wrong way? That's your bias. That's your opinion on and your belief on how it should be done. They might have learned a different way. They might have different things. So maybe it's better to come to them and ask them, like, is how they did it, like, and find out their way of doing things. Maybe you don't think it's right, but it doesn't mean they're wrong, which we can all be very, I think, susceptible to doing. I know some people who are. And just the awareness of them. It doesn't mean you have to change them, but just being aware of them when it comes to context and what you're doing and how you are approaching people in certain situations is just really, really important. So I just wanted to bring that up as well. And also, if you are following someone and you are kind of thinking of questioning them, one thing I would say is keep an eye on like their motives. Like, you know, you might consider their motives to be pure, but their motives, again, if something seems a bit dodgy and you're not like quite sure if it's right, there's probably a reason for that, I would say. And you know, some people's motives are just to make money and they will sell whatever and have no conscience about it. But just, you know, little things are keep an eye out for, you know, where you can pick up on things they might be doing. Say, for instance, you know, if they're telling you that you need this supplement or you will never feel good again, and they have a discount code at the end of it, and they haven't started it with, like, you know, a sponsored ad or whatever, like, there's probably a reason. They're probably just trying to sell it to you. Be careful, anyways. All these MLM companies as well, they're generally low quality and they're just selling stuff. But that is a different avenue that I didn't mean to go down. I just kind of got distracted thinking about it. As I said, when you're questioning people, do look out for some red flags and things like that. And with that, it's a little bit short and sweet today, because I did just want to come on and talk a little bit about questioning our beliefs, and as I said, a little bit on biases, a little bit on, you know, stories we tell ourselves become our reality, I suppose, is one thing I want to say. Like, don't become a self-fulfilling prophecy. Stop being so mean to yourself. If you won't be nice to yourself, don't be mean to yourself. It does the same thing. They have a compound effect, which is very important. So if you are doing, say, for instance, positive habits over and over time, they compound and they become easier and you get a good result over it. It's like compound interest, you know, over time. If you've got something savings away, even though interest's gone to crap, it will build up over time. Same thing with our habits. We get compound effect on them. And this goes both ways, remember. So, you know, if you're doing it negatively, it's going to compound and get worse and worse. So just remember that. Try to talk nice to yourself. Try to believe that you can do stuff. Stop ignoring yourself, or stop telling yourself you can't do stuff. Stop taking that tea out and go do stuff you can do. And you'd be surprised the difference that happens when you actually start talking to yourself better and believing in yourself. I really, like, seriously, the more you believe in yourself, the more you'll see a change. And out of the blue, it won't happen overnight. But you could be a couple of months down the line and realise something that you'd never noticed before. And that's because you've been employing these tactics over a course of time, and it's compounded, and now you have that effect. So, yep, I hope that made sense. I tried to get what was in my brain out coherently, but I'm not fully certain it did, even though I had notes. To put it shortly, believe in yourself, stop being mean to yourself, and I hope you all have a wonderful day. And as ever, guys, you will find me on Instagram. It's Chrissy H Fitness, and you will also find me on TikTok at Chrissy H Fitness. And yeah, thanks for listening today, guys. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you all again. Or he listened to you? No, you'll listen to me next week. You also find, my website as well is www.chrissyhawkins.com. Just thought I'd throw that in there as well. But yes, thank you for listening. Goodbye. Thank you again for listening to the Why Not podcast. It really means a lot that you are listening in, and I would love if you could please leave a review on Apple Podcasts or subscribe on Spotify. And always, I'd love to hear feedback personally, so if you do want to leave me a message and let me know how you found the podcast, please do.